Welcome back to ZNGP Today. Ducati General Manager Gigi Dall'Igna admitted frustration after Francesco Bagnaia's miserable Misano weekend ended in a non-finish, and candidly acknowledged that patience is being tested all around. With Bagnaia tumbling out of the San Marino Grand Prix on lap 9 and now deep in a form slump, Dall'Igna framed the problem as both technical and human, while pointing to Monday's Misano test as a vital chance to find answers. Pecco Bagnaia declined a scheduled media debrief after crashing out of the San Marino Grand Prix and delivering a bruising home weekend for Ducati. The two-time world champion, visibly shaken after his turn 10 fall, told journalists, "Honestly, I don't know what you want me to say." As Ducati postponed and then cancelled his press slot while he continued meetings with engineers ahead of Monday's crucial test. Bezzechi looked every bit the home favorite for the opening two-thirds of the San Marino Grand Prix, leading the first 11 laps and carving out a tense dogfight with Marquez. But a small braking error at turn 8 on lap 12, which the Italian attributes to an odd bike movement rather than a wholesale mistake, cost him the lead and ultimately the win. Bezzechi left Misano proud of his performance, but candid about where the weekend slipped away. Marquez praised Bezzechi after a titanic final phase duel at Misano, where the Ducati rider edged the Aprilia man to take the San Marino GP win. Marquez said he raised his pace to seal redemption for Saturday's sprint error, but Bezzechi matched him lap for lap, producing one of the weekend's finest head-to-head scraps before Marquez held on by half a second. Don't forget to click subscribe button and the bell icon for MotoGP news update. Bagnaia arrived at Misano hopeful after a Friday that promised more, but his hopes evaporated when he crashed from 7th at turn 10 on lap 9 of the GP. The incident completed a weekend that had already seen frustration in qualifying and a subpar sprint, leaving the two-time champion pointless on home soil. Bagnaia has now gone 5 rounds, 10 races, without a podium and has slipped 93 points behind Alex Marquez in the fight for runner-up, perilously close to Aprilia's Bezzechi in the standings. Asked about Bagnaia's visible anger and the fans' impatience, Dall'Igna did not hide the factory's emotion. He admitted he too had lost my patience, framed that reaction as human and understandable, and stressed the urgency of finding a way out of the slump. "I've lost my patience too, and Pecco's fans have lost their patience too. It seems quite normal to me that someone can say these things when results aren't coming." The blunt candor underlines how seriously Ducati views a prolonged dip from one of their flagship riders. Dall'Igna described the situation as a negative spiral. Once confidence and results start to fall away, reversing course becomes complicated. He hinted the GP25's traits and the rider-bike interaction remain part of the issue, but also insisted positivity and belief are crucial to recovery. That dual diagnosis, part engineering, part psychology, is familiar in top-level motorsport and sets the agenda for the forthcoming test work. Bagnaia admitted the crash, and the weekend's outcome left him short of words and emotionally raw. He repeated a desire for answers and said he will work with the team in Monday's test to try different solutions. Despite saying, "I'm living a nightmare," the rider stressed he had not given up faith in himself or his factory crew. He wants to analyze the data, work through the technical checks, and hopes the test will reveal something productive. The tone combined frustration with determination, a rider desperate for clarity more than platitudes. Ducati has scheduled a full Misano test for Monday, which Dall'Igna called important and an opportunity to try multiple ideas away from race pressures. With the engine freeze and development windows narrowing toward 2026, the test is presented as a final practical step to salvage the season's second half for Bagnaia. Pragmatic, concentrated test work, and a measurable improvement in feel and consistency are the immediate metrics Ducati will seek. Dall'Igna's frankness stripped some gloss off corporate calm. Ducati are impatient, Bagnaia is hurting, and the problem looks both technical and psychological. Monday's Misano test is now more than routine development, it's a repair mission. For Bagnaia and the factory, the objective is simple and urgent: convert words into setup fixes and a repeatable feeling so the nightmare can be turned back into form before the season's final run. After a promising Friday and a mixed sprint, Bagnaia ran 8th in the early Grand Prix laps but lost the front at turn 10 on lap 9, producing another non-finish. What had looked like a chance to climb out of the season's slump turned into further confirmation that the problems persist. I crashed. I was pushing and crashed. The crash added yet another zero to a sequence that has dented both confidence and championship momentum. Bagnaia's media appearance was delayed while he remained in close discussion with his team, then ultimately cancelled. He admitted being upset and muttered that, immediately after the crash, he was thinking, "Things that are better not to say on television. Honestly, I don't know what you want me to say." Skipping the podium lane interviews is rare at this level. It underlines how personally and psychologically draining this run has become. The Misano results sharpened tensions inside the Ducati camp. Gigi Dall'Igna has publicly acknowledged impatience with the situation, and fans are running out of it too. The combination of technical ambiguity and mounting external pressure is making the issue as much human as mechanical. When factory leadership admits frustration, it raises the stakes for both rider and engineers to produce concrete answers quickly. Both rider and team pointed to Monday's Misano test as the immediate chance to experiment away from race pressure. Bagnaia said the test is super important, and that they'll try to find solutions, though he warned the fix still feels very far away. He's focused on data and the test, but sober about how entrenched the issues feel. The test will be judged not on bold promises, but on repeatable improvements in feel and consistency. Bagnaia's language, living a nightmare, in previous interviews, and his decision to avoid the media reflect the mental toll of prolonged underperformance. He insists he hasn't lost faith in himself or Ducati, but recovery will require both technical clarity and psychological rebuilding. Turning fragile confidence back into aggressive, controlled riding is as important as any new part that might be bolted on. Bagnaia's silence at Misano was louder than any post-race soundbite. A rider in search of answers, a factory under strain, and a test day that now carries the weight of urgency. Ducati's next steps, technical and human, will determine whether this weekend is a low point or the start of a recovery. Bezzechi had controlled the early phase of the race, keeping Marquez honest, until the 12th lap when a tiny mistake in braking abruptly opened the door. The Italian ran wide at turn 8 and Marquez swept through to take the lead. "On that corner, turn 8, I made a small mistake, but the bike made a strange movement. I didn't want to lock the front, so I had to release a bit the front brake and go a little bit wide. Because of this, Mark passed me." The error was small in isolation, a release of the front brake to avoid a lockup. But at the sharp end of a tightly matched race, it was decisive. Bezzechi flagged braking feel as the weekend's variable factor. He tested both soft and medium rear compounds and said the main difference he sensed was in braking performance, a nuance that grew into a race-time handicap. With the soft, I had something extra in braking. The gap was smaller than last year but still relevant. From lap 8 or 9 I began to struggle in braking. Small compound-driven changes in rear behavior can translate into tenths per corner. At Misano those tenths were the margin between holding the lead and being passed. After Marquez took the lead, Bezzechi fought to stay within striking distance and hoped to pounce, but he couldn't claw the position back. He judged the race's latter stages a dogged attempt to respond rather than a collapse. "I tried to stay close to him as much as I can to try to bounce back. But it was not possible, unfortunately." Finishing only half a second behind Marquez underlines how marginal the outcome was. A lost braking moment, not a lost weekend of pace. Despite the error, Bezzechi regarded the weekend as one of his season's strongest stretches: controlled pace, top-level head-to-heads, and genuine victory chances. He praised the work done on the RSGP and highlighted that the Aprilia package is closing the gap. I really gave my all. I wanted the victory so bad. The performance that I did was unbelievable. The result reinforces Aprilia's development trajectory. They can put a rider in victory contention and extract consistent race pace across compounds when the conditions align. Bezzechi conceded that Ducati, and Marquez in particular, still had an advantage when tires began to drop. He pointed to the factory machine's smoother mid-to-end race behavior as a factor that ultimately denied him victory. Especially from mid-race to the end when the tire goes down, they are able to be smoother, be quicker. Marco Bezzechi left Misano with mixed emotions, the sting of a race-leading slip, but the uplift of having pushed Marc Marquez all the way. The decisive moment was a small braking reaction to a strange movement of the bike, amplified by tire behavior in the mid-race window. For Bezzechi and Aprilia, the lesson is clear. The package is close enough to fight for wins, but tiny margins in braking feel and tire management still separate challengers from victors. Bezzechi ran wide on lap 12, gifting Marquez the lead. The world champion then focused on control, managing tires and rhythm rather than pure aggression, but later chose to inject pace when the moment demanded it. When I took the lead, I tried to control the race. I was there, with a good rhythm in the 31 middle high. That period of management showed Marquez aiming to balance speed with tire life and error avoidance after his sprint crash. In the closing stages, Marquez pushed hard, attempting to break Bezzechi's resistance. He described those laps as laying everything on the table, only for the Italian to respond with equal intensity and new fastest laps. The last laps are when I put everything, all my cards on the table. But the reply from Marco was amazing. The exchange produced a thrilling finish, Marquez's attack, Bezzechi's reply, and a duel decided by tenths. Marquez admitted a string of small errors mid-race, notably several touches at turn 11, made him cautious, prompting a careful but ultimately aggressive endgame. The win was as much a response to Saturday's mistake as a championship assertion. In the middle of the race, I did 3 mistakes in a row. I was extra careful, but even like this, I was riding in a good way. It was a reminder that even the season's dominant rider can wobble, and then right the ship under pressure. Bezzechi's late race resistance and pace validated his sprint victory and underlined Aprilia's progress. Marquez lauded the Italian's tenacity. Bezzechi pushed until the flag and proved himself a genuine weekend rival. Marco was a super tough opponent. The reply in the last laps was very good. For Aprilia, the result confirms they can contest race victories when setup and rider execution align. Marquez celebrated in a theatrical fashion, lifting his leathers to the crowd in a Messi-style salute, and acknowledged the unique pressure of winning at Ducati's home race. He insisted the victory was particularly sweet given the expectations from the factory and its fans. I felt it was time to celebrate. I felt the pressure of Tardazzi. I feel the pressure of all of them. The display was both a personal flourish and a nod to the complex fan emotions that follow Marquez in Italy. The win stretched Marquez's lead to 182 points over Alex, leaving him one weekend, Motegi, away from a potential crowning if he outpoints his brother by 3. He remained cautious about complacency and focused on maintaining performance. It's something amazing. I just want to keep the same level. It looks like a matter of time. The championship picture is overwhelmingly in Marquez's favor, but he refuses to relax, a hallmark of his approach. Sunday at Misano was proof of 2 things: Marquez's capacity to respond to setbacks, and Bezzechi's rise as a top-level challenger. The closing laps were a chess match at full speed, Marquez putting his cards on the table, and Bezzechi answering in kind, with the champion doing just enough to stay ahead. The result tightens the narrative of a season dominated by Marquez, while reminding us that on any given day an opponent can force the fiercest test yet. Thanks for watching ZNGP Today, and this is your MotoGP news update. And see you next time!